Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I'd also like to introduce Neil Thompson, who has just made the call. So he's would you like to come online as well, Neil?
Yeah, hi everyone.
So a lot of you have heard about the Apollo protocol, and we just want to run through the launch event that happened last week to make sure that you're not missing out on what we're establishing here. So the Apollo protocol was an IET backed report, encapsulating a lot of people coming together, and many of the partnerships there included at the bottom of the report. And what this report laid out was a blueprint for how we should consider cross-sectoral interfaces. So a lot of the work going on still has very sector-specific enablement and discussions happening around digital twins. And what we felt there was a big gap happening where sectors weren't talking. And it's not to say specific sectoral conversations don't need to happen. They definitely do. But unless we start understanding how we unlock those opportunities across sectors, we feel there's a really big gap that we need to tackle. So what we did within this report is we laid out and analysed what could be established within a forum through the lens of the built environment and the manufacturing sectors coming together. And really, it sort of the conversations that myself and Neil were having was around how our languages are different, but also saying the same things in many respects. So it's about how can we establish something that gives this open forum and the ability to say, let's discuss things and understand what it means going forward. But really, the bigger picture for all of this is, yes, we've analysed this through these two sectors enabled by technology underpinning it all, but it's to say, actually, this is a blueprint for how other cross-sectoral understandings needs to happen. So the principles that we've got in the report and the other aspects of what we've encapsulated is something that other sectors could take. The natural environment along with the built environment, or the healthcare sector, or other things. And we're saying, look, if everyone analysed their cross-sectoral interfaces through common themes and shared best practice across them all, we feel that will add a lot of value to the current conversations around digital twins, information management, etc. And really what we're saying is actually a lot of the things we're coming out with are the only ways to really tackle grand challenges for sustainability, net zero, a lot of these things that we keep talking around and we really want to get behind and start doing the doing. So at the launch event last week, it was a really big announcement, or two big key announcements. The first of those is that we are now launching our first forum, and we'd like you to all join the network that we have on the DT Hub. We're going to use that as our main platform for communication about the events, which I'll get onto in a little second. But Neil, did you want to take it from here?
I have a slight issue that we're having a fire alarm test right now. So give me 30 seconds and I'll jump in, Jonathan.
No worries. I'll start running through. But so within the forum, we established 4 initial themes, and where we actually said, look, these are starting points. We don't want to boil the ocean and say, look, here's 20 different themes that we could go off and explore. But we found that these 4 were broad enough to stir conversation, but also narrow enough to say, actually, we can get some real value out of exploring these things. So the very candy-coloured background there of the different things happening in a city and in different areas. All of these aspects are manufactured and then hence into built environment, but also once they're finished, they need to be recycled, remanufactured and reused into other things. So the value chain here is we have high value manufactured assets like trains, along with a lot of other goods, sort of mobile phones and consumer goods. And that all enter the built environment at some stage and get used through a societal perspective. And it's really about how can we better understand when they are manufactured, how they are being used, and how that can affect things like next generation design. The other thing then is moving forward is performance optimization. So once you know how they're being used, does that affect, in engineering sense, the factor of safety? Can you make it lighter and cheaper and better using for consumers? Or is there a good mechanism where you can capture feature requests, or what should it do in the future for the next sort of best iPhone yet, as the joke always goes? Well, it wouldn't be worse because it's an improvement, hopefully. And then also as well moving forward is circular supply chains. So the ability to recycle materials, or when buildings are torn down, can you remelt the steel and produce new steel rather than digging up ore out of the ground? And it's all about how can we have those connections between these different sectors. And then,
do you want me to
go on, Neil.
Sorry,
the
fire alarm test is now complete. Apologies for the interruption. I mean, I feel like I disturbed your flow, Jonathan, to be honest. But I guess moving from circular economy, and I guess just broader on this for a moment, is the shared shared purpose and the areas that we should be focusing on in terms of collaboration. So moving into human capital, there's two parts of it. One is the looking at the kind of skills that we're going to market for in our respective sectors. We are in hot competition for skills around data science, skills around being able to develop. If we think about the servitization of manufactured goods, they require service wrappers that are based on applications, for example. And we're in hot pursuit of those from a built environment perspective. So instead of it being a zero-sum game between our two sectors on who can attract the talent, is there a smarter way of doing it? Is there a smarter way of also educating, upskilling people? We know that technology is always going to develop new markets and new roles and expands the demand of employment. But we do know there'll be obsolescence of certain skills as well, making sure that we've got a way of repurposing those people in terms of their best talents in a digital economy. And I think that just the other broad, what we've learned since launching this is that we're still finding it difficult to convene both the sectors in the same place. We hear from manufacturers, if you don't mind me saying, Jonathan, is it still feels like a very built environment heavy initiative, and we want to change that. And anything you can do to help us reach out to our dear friends in manufacturing would be great. We have those connections with Jonathan's here already, but we need to make sure that we're being inclusive in the conversation that we're having about digital twins from speaking from a built environment perspective. And if you're able to help in leading that conversation, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely.
Onto our events.
Yeah, and just to add to that a little bit is the people don't realize they manufacture things. They just think, oh, well, I'm just something that produces, or a company that produces goods for the built environment. Well, if you're still manufacturing it, then in our eyes, it's still being manufactured, needs that aspect to look through and that lens. So it's really about, yes, if you're interested, love for you to get all involved in this initiative, but also reach out to your networks, get them involved as well. We are, through the principles that we've laid out in the report, wanting this to be as open as possible. So we want to hear your ideas, we want to run it by you, and this is your forum, as the thing that I try to get across on the launch event is, yes, myself and Neil may be the ones leading this with a very supportive team and lots of other people involved as well. But we really want the user guys to, and everyone who's backing this and interested, to get the value out of it as well. So yes, please extend this into your wider networks. So just last off, the big announcement, or the second big announcement at the event, was that we've secured funding for Innovate UK to formally launch hacks as well, or sort of live sessions of how we can start these conversations. So these are the dates to get in your diary, and there is one coming up in just of a few weeks' time now, which will be sent round in the chat shortly as a link for the registration process. We do have limited numbers at these events. We've tried to make them as big as possible, as long as we can feel comfortable managing them. And the only reason we are sort of gating that process for a request form is just to make sure there's the right mix of people in the room. We want to make sure that there is an equal conversation between manufacturing and built environment going on. So it's not for us to pick who's in the room, it's for us just to make sure that we have the good representation, to make sure the conversation is focused on the cross-sectoral interface rather than becoming just a sectoral conversation. But yeah, really pleased to announce the funding that we've got through Simon Hart, for those of you that know him, and it's really good to be able to sort of launch these events and start to prove the value in having these sorts of conversations.